In this video, I will reveal Dynamo's disappearing magic trick. Here's a quick recap of what happened. Dynamo begins to leave, pulling the hood of his jacket over his head as he walks briskly away from the fans. Then, suddenly, he is gone. His clothes drop to the floor empty, as if his body had simply vanished into thin air. People rush forward to press against the jacket and jeans, but there is nothing inside. So what's the secret? If we slow the performance down, you can actually spot some important details that explain how he managed to pull it off. Starting with the moment Dynamo turns this corner. Pay close attention to the two people already standing there, and a third blonde-haired woman who joins them on the right. Their placement is too perfect to ignore, and they're not reacting like the rest of the crowd. This is not random. These three are about to play a bigger role than you might think. And then comes the critical camera move. A few seconds before he vanishes, the camera suddenly pushes in tight toward the male's shoulder and neck, and at that exact moment the image blurs. But this is not a normal camera shake or focus blur, it's an artificial blur added in post to hide an important moment. That blur covers a hidden jump cut. You can even tell where the first clip ends before the jump cut, because at first the assistant's neck is seen fully on the right. Then suddenly, after the cut, shifts left and goes out of frame as the camera refocuses. But what exactly did they hide with that jump cut? Well, this can be better understood if you simply compare Dynamo's jacket before and after the cut. Yes, it's pretty obvious that what we see after the jump cut is just a shell of clothing that's similar to Dynamo's jacket and pants. So clearly a switch took place. But this ends up leading to more questions than answers. Because first of all, how did Dynamo perform the switch without being seen by the live audience? And how come this second camera facing Dynamo never showed the vanish from the front, which these group of spectators witnessed? Well, to answer all these questions so it makes sense, let's start with the switch. During the blurred transition, Dynamo slips to the left side and ducks behind the aisle. At that exact moment, his assistant, who is hidden out of sight, pushes a prepared shell of clothing into place. The blur clears, and what we see after the cut isn't Dynamo anymore, it's the dummy left standing there. This hollow shell is built to briefly mimic a real figure, holding its form just long enough to look natural before collapsing. At this point, the trick is already done, but the illusion doesn't feel complete yet. To understand why nobody caught Dynamo making that move, we need to look at the people standing nearby and the psychology that worked in Dynamo's favor. The role of the three people at the corner becomes clear here. First, they created the gap Dynamo needed by walking noticeably slower than the rest of the crowd. The pathway between the aisles was narrow, and because they were moving side by side, nobody could slip past them or overtake their position. This kept Dynamo comfortably ahead, free from anyone brushing against him at the crucial moment. Just as importantly, they blocked the view of the crowd directly behind. While Dynamo slipped to the side, their bodies shielded the transition point from both the spectators and the camera following. The blur hid it for us watching at home, but in the store, their positioning was enough to keep the switch from looking suspicious. The second part of their job is more subtle, but even more important. The spectators weren't primed to expect a vanish. To them, Dynamo was simply walking away, not setting up a miracle. Psychology takes over in moments like this. Human attention narrows, and when we focus on one thing, we miss the unexpected happening right in front of us. This is called inattentional blindness, and it's famously shown in the invisible gorilla experiment, where viewers counting basketball passes often fail to notice a man in a gorilla suit walking across the screen. The same thing happened here. The crowd was focused on following Dynamo, not analyzing every step. Even if someone caught a glimpse of him moving sideways, their brain did not register it as important. The reason is simple. The three people walking slowly ahead created a natural block in visibility. For a brief moment, Dynamo slipped out of sight, but when the spectators looked forward again, they saw what they assumed to be still him, but is now a hollow shell, standing right where they expected him to be. Since nobody was anticipating trickery, the brain filled in the gap and filtered out that short absence as though he had never moved. This is how perception betrays us. Even a 2 or 3 second disappearance can go unnoticed when the mind assumes continuity. The dummy shell reinforces that assumption by providing a visual anchor that convinces the audience their memory of events is seamless. And by the time the clothes dropped, people had already reconstructed it in their memory as he was there walking the whole time, then suddenly vanished. If you look closely at the moment the jacket hits the ground, something unusual happens. A small plastic piece pops out from the center of the hoodie and lands on the floor. At first glance it looks meaningless, just a stray bit of fabric or debris, but it is not there by accident. That piece is actually connected to an invisible thread that runs through the top of the hoodie cap and is controlled by an assistant, positioned above the escalator. In the close-up shot, one of the spectators presses down on the clothing to prove there is nothing inside. If a wire frame had been holding it up, he would have felt it immediately. But here is the trick. The jacket and trousers in that close-up are not the same ones that originally dropped to the floor. If you compare the final frame before Dynamo vanished with the close-up that follows, the differences are clear. They are two completely different sets of clothing, filmed separately and then edited together. The people who rush from the front are not random spectators. They are part of the staging, to sell the miracle for the cameras. They act as if they'd just witnessed Dynamo physically vanish from the front angle. If that were true, then the footage filmed by this second camera facing Dynamo should have been shown to us, but never was. With this final piece in place, the vanish achieves its full effect. The crowd is left stunned, the TV audience gets a seamless miracle, and Dynamo is already clear of the area before anyone has time to question what really happened. Behind this mask, only the truth remains till we meet again.